Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 26th of April, 2023. Right, everyone, let's get into it. So I spoke yesterday about Coinbase's suit against the SEC and gave some details about that. Well, I just wanted to highlight this thread today from Meta Lawman, who explained in a bit more detail about what this is actually going to entail. So he says here, this case begins in the appellate court, not the trial court. There will be no discovery, depositions, and document exchanges, just briefing and a hearing. Coinbase has an all-star legal team led by Eugene Scalia, former Secretary of Labor and son of deceased Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Scalia has experience defeating government agencies, including the SEC, in court. The petition filed yesterday is quite persuasive. Then he continues by saying Coinbase is seeking a writ of mandamus, which is a court order compelling the SEC to do its job and announce a decision on Coinbase's request for rulemaking. This action does not necessarily affect the SEC's timing for suing Coinbase, as it is threatened to do so. And then he continues and says he expects major industry players to pile in with amicus briefs supporting Coinbase's position. And we might also see the House Financial Services Committee or individual members come in with briefs in support of Coinbase. And this is where it gets really juicy. The SEC commissioners will have to approve any response to Coinbase's action. There's a tiny chance that the SEC will blink and agree to engage in rulemaking, and if just one commissioner withdraws their support for Gary Gensler's regulation by enforcement strategy, he's done. Now, I don't know what he's done means here. I don't know if that means like he's fired or if or he'll be removed or something like that. I'm not across it as much as I would like to be, but when I read he's done, I'm like, okay, well, maybe he actually does get removed, and maybe he actually is out. Maybe there isn't just those two kind of options that I talked about yesterday and a couple of weeks ago. And I'm just going to quickly look in here and see if there's any replies here. Okay, yeah, so he's replied here. To be clear, I mean one of the Democratic appointed commissioners who have been supporting the regulation by enforcement strategy to date. Okay, so he didn't mean Gary Gensler would be done. It meant that the commissioner would be done. Okay. So that makes a bit more sense, I guess. But still, this is great. This is a great little breakdown here, and I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But I think that's it on that one, because I spoke about this a lot yesterday. So if you missed me speaking about it yesterday, go check out yesterday's episode there, and I'll keep you guys updated on how Coinbase's suit goes here. All right, so that devnet 5 for EIP 4844 that I've been talking about has an update today. So FLCL here on Twitter, who is a dev at Nethermind, put out a tweet saying Nethermind has the 5th iteration of EIP 4844 implemented, now syncs with Lodestar, waiting for the devnet v5 full start. By the way, what's new in v5? So v5 changes make 4844 simpler and cleaner. No zero blob transactions. Shard blob transactions now must have at least one blob, and no aggregated proof, a commitment and a proof for every blob, which allows to verify faster, and then a few other things here which you can read in the YouTube description below. And Terrence from the Prior Labs team also put out a tweet saying 2 weeks ago shipped Capella, or I guess like Chapella. Capella is the consensus layer side of things, which is what Terrence works on. And this week, Prism syncing multi-client Deneb devnet 5. Deneb is part of the Cancun upgrade that is happening at the end of the year that I've spoken about before. So there is a lot of progress being made very quickly on 4844 now that Chapella is behind us. And I remember I've said this over the last few months that as soon as Chapella was done, I mean, even leading up to it being done on mainnet, being deployed on mainnet, 4844 was making very good progress. Now, I am growing more and more confident by the day that we're going to be able to see 4844 go live on mainnet by end of this year. Now, that doesn't mean that the rollups are automatically going to take advantage of them. As we've seen with some of the applications or some of the services built on top of Ethereum, such as Lido, Chapella went live, but Lido isn't actually doing withdrawals until at least a month after Chapella went live, because they have to implement it on their own code base. The same is true for rollups. Rollups do not automatically inherit the kind of new scalability that 4844 gives them. They have to be changed, from my understanding, they have to be changed at the code level in order to take advantage of it. So we might see some of them ready, at the time that 4844 goes live and can immediately take advantage of it. We may see some of the other ones, not going live for a few weeks or a month or something like that. But it makes total sense for pretty much all of them to switch over to blob type transactions instead of the normal core data that they use, in order to reduce those costs substantially on their each individual rollups for the end users here. So I'm expecting it to happen pretty fast, and I'm curious to see if any of them are actually going to be ready at the point of 4844 going live. Like, for example, will Arbitrum 1 or the Optimism network be ready day one that 4844 goes live to switch over. So basically automatically switch over from using core data to using blobs, and then immediately, and this would be a quite immediate effect for end users, those fees would drop by probably 10 times or more, right? So this isn't like the merge, where the merge was obviously a huge monumental event, but for end users, they didn't really feel anything. It didn't bring any scalability, right? It didn't bring any kind of UX or UI improvements for end users that they would feel. At least there was some improvements like the 12-second block time, obviously, but it's not something that you would really feel unless you're actually looking for it. Whereas with 4844, if the rollup switches over to it, or if one of those networks switches over to it when it goes live, then immediately end users will feel the effect here in their transactions being a lot cheaper, and they're probably going to ask, why is it cheaper? And this is where things get really positive. They're going to find out that it's cheaper because there was an upgrade that went through on Ethereum to make it that way. And what I really like about that is that it reinstills confidence in people who may think that Ethereum is only scaling via layer 2 and not scaling its layer 1, and shows people that no, Ethereum is scaling at layer 1 and layer 2. It's just that as part of the rollup centric roadmap, layer 1 Ethereum is mostly being scaled to service layer 2s. And Apollinaire has talked about this recently as well, about how layer 1 Ethereum could integrate its own ZK EVM and a bunch of other updates that could scale it by 10 to 100 times. That's all well and good, but 10 to 100 times is not nearly enough for the scalability that we need for end users. That's why end users are going to be sitting at layer 2. Whereas layer 1 is going to get more scalable, of course, but eventually every user except whales and the layer 2s themselves settling on Ethereum will be priced out. So the layer 2s and higher than that, like layer 3s and things like that, is the user layer, as I've talked about numerous times before. But yeah, I'm curious to see which ones are actually going to be able to go live with the 4844 upgrade at the same time that it goes live on mainnet here. All right, so a bit more staking chat today. I know I've talked about this a lot lately, but I think it's very relevant because there is a lot happening in the staking ecosystem, and there's a lot of interesting stuff happening that I feel is worth covering. So Jasper from the Rocket Pool community put together another great thread talking about Rocket Pool's growth since the Atlas upgrade went live. So the Atlas upgrade didn't go live that long ago. I don't know how long ago it was now, maybe like 10 days, 9 days ago or something like that. So it hasn't been too long, but Jasper starts off this thread by saying, the Rocket Pool team launched the Atlas upgrade, enabling 8 ETH mini pools or validators. It's been a resounding success, so let's look at some numbers. So the numbers are that there are 3,654 mini pools launched, a 25% growth, 2,632 of those coming from 16 ETH reduction. So basically people who are already running 16 ETH mini pools, converting that into 8 ETH mini pool. And then Jasper continues saying that Rocket Pool deposited 50,000 ETH to the Beacon chain with a queue for another 60,000 ETH, which is 11% growth here. And interestingly, 90 pools have been solo staker migrations and only 128 pools have exited. And then Jasper continues, our ETH growth supply is up 10% from 232,000 to 256,000. With deposits picking up recently as Kraken and Coinbase unlock their staked ETH, punching above the belt, 2% of the Beacon chain, but 10% of inflows. With integrations, this is up only. And then the node operator count also continues up and to the right, now at 2,415, and the mini pool queue has topped out for now at 66,000 ETH, providing bonus rewards, boosting our ETH APR, approximately 100-200 spots advance per day. This is huge. I mean, I remember saying this for months to you guys, that I believe that Rocket Pool's Atlas upgrade will be a huge boost to the Rocket Pool ecosystem because it addresses the concerns around RE scalability and around lowering that barrier to entry for people to spin up mini pools. I've started converting my mini pools today from 16 ETH to 8 ETH. It's very straightforward, to be honest. I'm just following the Rocket Pool docs, and as usual, the Rocket Pool docs are the goat of docs. But yeah, it's very straightforward, and you can spin up new mini pools today with 8 ETH and 2.4 ETH worth of RPL tokens. So if you're already exposed to RPL and you have the ETH that is required, as I said before, all you need is a relatively low-powered device to do this. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi. You can do it on a Rock5B board. Check out the Proteus device that Joe from the Rocket Pool community has put together. That might be something that you're interested in. Or you could just run it on your laptop. If you're happy with your laptop being online 24/7, you can run the mini pool on your laptop using the smart node stack If you're running Windows, it might be a bit harder. You might have to do a kind of some funky things to get it to work. But on Mac OS, it should work out of the box, I believe. And then if you're already running, Ubuntu on a laptop, well, then it's going to be very easy for you to integrate with the Smart Node stack and get that all started there. But as I said, you don't need high-powered hardware. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi. You can do it on a Rock 5B board, which is what Proteus uses, or you can do it on any other kind of old hardware that you may have lying around. I would say that in terms of the minimum requirements, 2 terabyte SSD is probably the biggest expense there. In terms of RAM, 8 gig could work, but I usually go 16 gig, which is still very, very cheap. RAM is not that expensive. Not as expensive as it used to be, and that should really be all you're worried about. CPU, you don't really need a strong CPU. You can just get a run-of-the-mill one. As I said, because you're running it on these small, low-powered devices, they don't have powerful CPUs anyway. So yeah, look into that if you are interested in spinning up mini pools here. Now, talking about Ethereum staking, there has been a bit of chatter around actually tracking how many validators are active on the Beacon chain. Because as you can see, the Beacon chain website has active validators at 561,655. Rated Network actually has a different number here where, oh man, I've lost the number here anyway, but I saw it before. They have a different number, and so do a bunch of other websites like Dune Analytics dashboards. Now, there is discrepancies between these websites because they're counting validators in different ways. Some of them might be counting validators as, okay, well, we know that 10,000 validators, or what is it here? We know that 13,000 validators are going to actually enter in, but they're pending right now. So let's just add that to the total amount of active validators, and that's the number. Whereas I don't think that's what Beacon Chain is doing. I think that they split it out, where they say, okay, these are the active validators on the network, and here are the pending validators, both entering and exiting. So because of that, their number is going to be different to ones that count it in different ways here. And then I've also seen the amount of ETH at stake number be inaccurately shown on certain websites, and that's because they are just looking at the ETH2 deposit contract. So I have to explain this because I don't think many people are aware of this. The ETH2 deposit contract is a one-way burn, which means you send ETH in there to enter into ETH staking, and it burns that ETH technically on the execution layer side and issues it on the consensus layer side, which allows you to continue staking. And then when you go to withdraw it, it does not reduce the balance of the ETH2 deposit contract, at least not right now. It may in the future, but it doesn't right now. Now, this is not an accounting error. This is not a bug. This is working as intended. So as you can see, the ETH2 deposit contract has 19.4 million ETH in it. Now, this is ETH that has been effectively burned. It is not ETH that can be withdrawn from this contract. It is, as I said, is a one-way bridge into the consensus layer into staking. Now, you can see here on the Beacon Chain website, it says that the staked ETH is at 18 million. So that is a pretty large discrepancy there. Well, that's because any ETH that is withdrawn from the Beacon Chain as a full exit, right? As a full exit of the validator does not come from this contract. It comes from the consensus layer itself, which is where the ETH is actually stored. And as I said, that means that this contract is going to be up only for the foreseeable future. There may be a reconciliation of balances one day where the contract is, where there is a kind of a hard fork to do this, but it may not be something that gets done because there may not be any point to it. But you shouldn't be looking at the ETH2 deposit contract ETH balance anymore to see how much total ETH is at stake, because as I said, this is up only now, or it has always been up only, but when validators withdraw, it's not going to show here. Whereas Beacon Chain, I believe, is probably the most accurate for showing this. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now, of course, Rated.network is a great site. I've highlighted it a bunch on the refill before. It shows a really great breakdown of all different staking providers, their network penetration, what consensus clients they're using, what MEV boost relays they're using, things like that, which is really, really cool. Now, I want to point out one thing. You guys know that Kraken was forced to withdraw all their validators, right? Well, not all of them, all the validators that belong to US-based persons, and it's been a lot of validators, actually. You can see here that Kraken actually started off just before Shapala went live at 7.1% of the network. Now they're down to 4.4% of the network, which is a pretty massive reduction. That is a 2.8% reduction in their validators, and I don't think they're done yet because obviously there's the queue that they have to deal with here. Now, I hear from some reliable sources that have been tracking where the Kraken ETH has been going, that a lot of it has actually been going into a solo staking or other decentralized staking pools, which is obviously very, very cool to see. But of course, some of it will have gone into other services, other centralized services like Coinbase and other staking LSDs like like Lido, but yeah, it's great to see that that ETH has been restaked instead of sold. And I did say that I believed that that ETH would be restaked with another provider, or most of it would be. I didn't really think that it would be sold, and that goes back to, I guess, like the overall take that I had, that I didn't believe that the ETH that was withdrawn from the Beacon chain would really be sold. It'd be changing as part of that great reshuffling, but it's still early days, right? It hasn't been that long since Chapala went live. I mean, it's been about two weeks now, I think, since Chapala went live. This is a month-long, year-long kind of process of reshuffling. The queue here is I believe the entry queue right now is 18 days or something like that. So if you were to deposit 32 ETH and spin up a validator today, you would be waiting 18 days for that validator to actually become active on the network. And same is true, I believe, for the exit queue here. So if you wanted to withdraw, and that's just a natural kind of effect. That's a natural thing that ETH staking has integrated in it. You guys all know about the deposit and withdrawal queues, so no surprise there. But yeah, just wanted to clarify a bunch of those points for you. Now, moving on to the second last thing about staking is a massive announcement from EtherFi today. So they have announced something called Operation Solo Staker. This program has one simple goal: to empower individuals around the world to become solo stakers. Now, there's a thread and an accompanying blog post here, accompanying website here, I should say, with a bunch of information on the website as well. But basically, why they're doing this is because their decentralization is a primary objective for them. They won't compromise on building a non-custodial and decentralized protocol. They will do the right thing for the community, for the Ethereum community. And then they say, what is it? Well, the program offers solo stakers a free machine to run an Ethereum validator node and the ETH to stake it. Their partners, Avado and Dapnode, will provide the solo stakers the hardware, and Obel will set up their DVT tech on every node. The goal is to get machines in the hands of stakers all around the world, many of whom do not have access to robust staking technology right now. The stakers will earn a small profit from running the machine to pay for internet, food, or whatever they want. And then it continues on in this thread here. Now, you can click this button here, become a solo staker, and apply, and give a bunch of your information here and apply to this initiative here, and maybe you'll get chosen. It is not open. It's open to everyone, but it's not like everyone is going to be chosen, obviously, because there are a bunch of expenses involved with stuff like this, and obviously it's something that's being funded by other teams involved here, but some of the criteria include experience staking and be technically competent. So I mean, whether you're probably not an existing solo staker, but even if you've used like Rocket Pool, that would suffice here. And maybe you've watched some videos on it or read guides on it and gone through like test nets for staking, that would also suffice. You need to have a pretty solid internet connection with 250/100 bandwidth with no cap. That seems pretty excessive, to be honest. I have a very high download speed, so I have 1 gigabit per second down, but I don't have 100 megabit per second up. I have 40 at max up, and I'm running, as you guys know, multiple ELCL client combos with many validators on the same network. And yes, okay, I'm probably saturating my upload bandwidth here, but it's still working, and it's working fine. As you guys know, just to remind you, I have my archive node box, which is running an ELCL. I have my Rocket Pool box, which is running an ELCL. I have my Proteus, which is also running an ELCL, and I have my Solar Staking box, which is also running that. And I'm running Obel's software on mainnet as well. And as I said, I've only got 40 megabits, if that. I think it really realistically hovers around 30 megabits up. So even if you don't have that, I would still apply, because I don't think that should be a strict requirement here. But I think they're obviously trying to optimize for the people with the best connection, so they can test this out and maybe open it up to the more people later. Unfortunately, you have to be doxed to the EtherFi team, so I'm sure they're going to want to know who they're dealing with here, but you won't be doxed publicly. So if you are an Anon online, you only be doxed to the EtherFi team, and there is a bunch of agreement on program terms that you need to sign as well, as is natural, right? But yeah, I think this is really cool. There's only 12 spots available. I should also put that information out there too. But the reason why I think this is cool is obvious, right? The more people solo staking, the more people we can get involved with by helping them along and by doing it and providing them the hardware, the more, I guess, like those people will be able to teach other people how to do it, right? And the more it opens up the, I guess, like idea to solo staking to more and more people. I've actually had the idea for quite a while to make something, or at least get involved with something that was similar to Avado and Dap node, where you create, and like a Proteus, right? Where you create this little box and you just commercialize. You basically make the Apple of staking boxes, where you make it look really, really good. You make it look really attractive. You make it look like a product that people actually want to own, and they can run it as just a normal full node, or they can run it with a full node with validators on it, and it just sits in their house, becomes a conversation piece. It'll be designed really cool, but unfortunately, I don't have the time nor the expertise in hardware to do that. So I'm hoping that other companies step up to the game and do that as well. But for now, we have Avado and Dap node, which are great. There's nothing wrong with them. And we have initiatives like EtherFi's Operation Solo Staker in order to get more people solo staking here. So you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, last up here was just a new knowledge base on staking that I wanted to share from the EthStaker community. Now, this has been specifically made by someone called Space Cider, who is an Australian dude with a big beard, I've been told. I'm pretty sure I've met this person before. I think I met him in Denver, but I wasn't able to kind of verify that. But yeah, this website is magnificent. This is awesome. This is like, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of EthHub. When Eric and I put together a bunch of documentation around Ethereum for EthHub, and people were loving it because they could get involved, they could edit it themselves on GitHub, they could learn all about Ethereum. Well, this is dedicated to staking, and it has so many so much information here that it's actually mind-boggling. I was going through it before and looking through it all. I was like, oh my god, this is so helpful. Some of the information includes, like just getting started, right? Help, like such as my validator is offline. What do I do? You click through to here, and then you get like a straightforward answer of what to do. Go back, look at something else. What are the hardware requirements for staking here? Look at all this information. This is crazy, right? Like I was going through this before, and I was just mind blown by the amount of information that was here. And if you are thinking about starting staking, whether it be as a solo staker or Rocket Pool or any way else where you're going to run the hardware and software yourself and you're a bit worried about it, I mean, just hit up this website, right? I'll link this in the YouTube description for you below to check out. But just hit this up and read through it, and you'll have like pretty much all of your questions answered. They're even answering questions around downtime. Like, are you worried about downtime? Well, read here and you won't be worried anymore. Are you worried about slashing? Read this. You won't be worried anymore. And then, I mean, every question that I could think of with regards to staking has been answered here. And of course, as I said, you can also edit this on GitHub yourself if you feel like there could be more information added here. And I'm sure that there is going to be more information added over time by Space Cider and co here, and Iridian, I believe, is also involved in this, doing all the work here. So this is just absolutely great. And on top of this, they're actually planning to get this translated into different languages. So right now it's available in English and Spanish, but they are looking for volunteers to translate this into other languages. So if that's something that you would like to get involved with, you can contact them. I believe that there is a get involved section where you can contact them. You can join the Discord, and you can also visit the How to Contribute section here for full details on that there. So I just wanted to shout out this because it is one of the best, if not the best, staking resource websites that I've come across. So big shout out to the EthStaker community. Big shout out to Space Cider and Iridian. Thank you for doing this. I'm going to be using this and referring to it a lot going forward, especially obviously as someone who is very involved with staking, but also as someone who is a big advocate for staking and wanting to just send people a page that they can read to answer their questions without me having to repeat myself a million times. This is an amazing resource. So kudos to everyone involved with getting this off the ground. All right, moving on. OP Labs has put together a resource for OP's mainnet upgrade for OP's next upgrade called Bedrock. So it's fast approaching to be deployed to mainnet here, and they put together a resource that is the source of truth for the upgrade, timing, project status, and relevant upgrade guide. So you can check it out here if you're interested in that. Here being the link that I'll link in the YouTube description below. It is also available at this URL, optimism.io/bedrock upgrade. But as I said, I'll link it, and it's got all the relevant information in here for you. Now, this information, I believe, is for developers, for people building on top of Optimism, for people just interested in the network. And such stuff like that. But there is currently no set date for Bedrock, the Bedrock upgrade. I have speculated that it's probably going to be released in May. We'll have to see if they give a date there. It could be as far as June. I don't know, but we'll have to keep tabs on that. But you can keep tabs on that yourself by going to this link, which I'll share in the YouTube description below. All right, last up here, we have an update from Dune Analytics. So they've announced some major progress on the Dune API live, which is now, the Dune API, which is now live for all users. They've revamped subscription plans and more power for free users. So here's how, and there's a thread here on this. So the Dune API, as I said, is available for all, and you can go play around with that if you're interested in that. There are subscription plans available too. You can see here plus and premium plans that allow you to query and track faster and get involved and build stuff there. There is a credit system as well that's been integrated and a bunch of other features too, which you can read in this thread here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. And this is great. I mean, Dune Analytics, as you guys know, I mean, I should disclose I'm an investor in them, but you guys know that is one of my favorite analytics websites out there. I love following along with all the dashboards that people create. I love following along with all the data that is just available to us because Ethereum is transparent, right? And we get all this data for both the Ethereum layer 1 and Ethereum layer 2 and everything that surrounds that. It's just a great way to keep up with watching like the growth of these networks, the adoption of them, all that good stuff there. So you definitely can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, I have a few minutes left. One thing I wanted to talk about today, not particularly regarding the market, but also just a funny thing that I've noticed. So post Chappelle, obviously the price of ETH went up a fair bit. I think it went to like 2,200 or something like that. Then it came back down to like 1,800 or something, and now it's back up to like what? Let me have a look at the price right now. What is it? It's like almost 2K again. It's like 1965, right? At time of recording. What I wanted to quickly say was that I've said it before. I said this months ago that I would. On the refuel, I would say if I thought that we were starting a new bull market again, I could be wrong when I say that, but like I'm not going to say it until I'm pretty confident that a new bull market is back. And it's probably going to be obvious to people at the point that I say it, but I'm sticking to that. But what's happening right now, and I just want to reiterate this for people because I had a few people ask me, we're in what people call a crab market, which is basically a sideways market where the price can go from like 1,000 to over 2,000 back to like 1,000, right? It can do that. Like don't get me wrong there, but it doesn't actually mean anything, right? What it's showing is that the market right now is just existing of the same players that have been around for quite a while. People are slowly buying. The long-term investors are buying. They're stacking. They're DCAing. All that stuff there. Traders are trying to make money anywhere they can with any volatility that they see. That's why you see these kind of moves playing out, because that's volatility that traders like to take advantage of. But in terms of like a long-term investor mindset on this sort of stuff, the opportunity for you is to just DCA, right? I'm not trying to give investment advice here, but I've had people ask me a lot, and I figured I just cover it on the refuel. I mean, if you're still here, if you're a long-term investor, then you shouldn't be worried about these day-to-day, week-to-week moves at all. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, right? It could be at 2,500 next week, and then it could be at 1,500 the week after, right? Like if you're DCAing in, if you're averaging out your buy price, that's all you can really focus on, because you're not going to catch the local bottom. You're not going to catch you're not going to sell the local top, because if you start doing that, you're a trader. You're no longer a long-term investor. So just something that I wanted to clarify for people, because as I said, I've been getting a lot of people pinging me about it, and that is my honest answer. And as I said, I will tell you when I think the bull market is back, when I am very, very confident in it. But we're not there yet. We're very far away from that, actually. There is. I think I've mentioned this before on the refill. There are two types of capitulation when it comes to markets, especially the crypto market. There is price-based capitulation, which I believe has already happened. I believe ETH bottomed at 880 in June of last year, and I believe BTC bottomed at, what was it, like 14,000 something in November after the FTX collapse. I don't believe we're going to see those prices again. If I'm wrong on that, whatever, but like I'm just putting out my belief here. As I said, it's not investment advice. I'm not saying it's 100% the bottom, but I believe it is. And secondly, what we have to meet is time-based capitulation. Now, for BTC, it hasn't actually been very long since its bottom. November to April is only a few months, right? It's not a very long time. For ETH, it has been longer, but I think ETH, it did go down to like $1,000 after the FTX collapse or something like that. Or 1,100, I can't remember exactly what it was. So if you want to count that from when BTC actually bottomed, there is still, if you want to say when is BTC going back to its new all-time high, you could say there is still at the very least another 18 months left of this kind of time-based capitulation or this accumulation that we see for BTC and probably for ETH as well, right? So that's why a lot of people say, oh, well, the bull market will be back, probably late next year, late 2024. That could be the way it plays out if it plays out similarly to what we've seen in the past. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but that's exactly why I've told you guys that I don't believe we're anywhere near a bull market. I'm not going to say that we're in a bull market until I'm very confident we are. And one of the signals that I use is this: how long have we been in this kind of like sideways crab market for? We haven't been in it near long enough yet. And any kind of price movement that you see this year, I believe, is just due to that kind of like ranging, that trader volatility, that kind of market trying to figure out what it wants to do sort of thing. And if we're going to enter a bull market, it's probably not going to happen until sometime next year. As I said, not investment advice, just general kind of clarity for people who have been asking me about those sorts of things. But on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.